Okay, well, thank you all for being here. And truly, I think connected experiences, connected products, this Phygital world is the new world that is taking us forward and bringing it on to the new iteration of the internet. And you truly are the pioneers that are doing this. So I'm very excited to dive into what you do. It'd be great if we start maybe doing a one sentence on what your company does, and just to make sure that we have a differentiation between you three. And also a little bit of like rules of the game. Before we use any jargon today, we're going to, if we do use it, explain what it is, just so we make sure we're all on the same page and we understand fully what we are talking about today. Do you want to start us off, Natasha?
Thank you. By way of introduction, I'm Natasha Franck, founder and CEO of Aeon. We describe ourselves like a CRM for your products, and I think the world is moving to make every physical product traceable, intelligent, interactive. I have a lot to learn from just the digital people that we heard from this morning, but at Aeon we work at the intersection of the digital and the physical, trying to embed intelligence into each physical product so that brands can make them more valuable, more circular, more sustainable, more traceable, and more engaging.
So I'm Pierre-Nicolas Hurstel. I'm CEO and co-founder at Arianee. Created Arianee in 2018. We enable brands to create a new form of data at the intersection of product owners and brands. A data enabling circularity and controlled by users. This data can be called a digital product passport, a maintenance booklet. And we use public blockchain protocols and API infrastructures to allow enterprises to deploy this new kind of data that is going to be the foundation for the circular economy.
My name is Jake. Hey, everyone. And we are building, I'm CEO and co-founder of Uniqly, and we are building digital layer of technology for physical assets, mainly for clothes. Like, for example, this shoe is a physical object and also an NFT. You can scan it via NFC tag, and you can access different experiences designed for the users to like play with the item or drive the engagement with physical objects, and as well with the brands. And that's what we are building.
Great. You mentioned NFC. What is that?
NFC is like a small chip. It's pretty old technology. Don't be like fooled by Web3 industry that is something innovative and new. It's like a super small antenna used in retail businesses for a long, long time. And you can just tap with your phone and it will pop up in the browser and you will access the link that is like coded on this specific NFC chip. And what is like super interesting, this NFC chip is like highly secured and cryptographically encrypted, and you cannot fake it, you cannot crack it, you cannot like make another copy of it and put it to another shoe. Every time you tap, there is like a unique ID generated, and you can like you got the proof that you accessed the right one.
Thank you. Yesterday, I actually interacted with a brand, Kiki, that has stick-on nails that have NFCs on them, so you can actually like scan a nail, and it has either your contact information or your website or whatever it is that you want to activate on that content. So I found it super interesting. My first question is for you, Natasha. It's about the circular economy and new circular businesses. So we talk a lot about how this is the new thing coming. How do these technologies in all of digital passports and digital identities of products, how do they help us move into an iteration of a new business model that is actually revenue making?
I think we're at a very exciting moment. Like if you really think about what the digital ID is in its simplest, least jargony way, it's like the barcode for the circular economy, right? We produce billions of products every single year, and we ID those products from point of production to point of sale, right? Every single company has a barcode or an RFID tag, but then we just remove that ID the moment it's sold, and we say like, adios, right? So now basically you can think with the digital product passport, you're embedding that into the physical product. So now that product can be ID'd universally wherever it goes in the world, and that product can also share and exchange data to all the downstream business processes. So for example, with the H&M, who we work with their digital ID, right now when it goes through the life cycle, you could scan it with your eBay app to resell it. So products can basically start to share and exchange data to drive those circular business models at scale. And I think that gets really exciting because not only is it resale, not only is it repair, but it's also recycling, right? One of the biggest barriers to recycling is you can't ID the materials. And so now we're working with companies like Waste Management to automatically share that information to them so they can also access, sort, and separate. And what the DPP legislation is trying to do is actually, so it's under another framework of policy called ESPR, but the goal is to capture all that life cycle data and then actually tax brands based on the circular performance of those products. So it's quite transformational to think about every product that we produce as an asset that is ID'd, that is accountable, that is stewarded, and that ultimately is generating more profit and value for the brand.
Amazing, thank you. When are these legislations going to be in place? How fast do brands need to be moving?
I'd say, so there's, the digital product passport legislation applies to all products sold in the EU, right? So it's not just fashion, and there's a Surpass 2 consortium, which we're part of, which has 6 pilots over the next 18 months that are funded by the EU Commission, and Aeon is running the one for the fashion, apparel, and retail vertical. And those pilots will basically codify the final framework of the legislation, which is expected to come out in 2027, and then fashion will have 18 months to enact it across all products. That's not a lot of time, right, for brands in terms of when you think about when you design a product and then when it gets produced and now having to have all those products ID'd. So it's moving and it's exciting.
Thank you. Pierre-Nicolas, this one's for you. How can you explain the collection of data that we have not only of the provenance and ownership, but post that interaction when you actually purchase the product? And how can that data enhance our businesses and push us forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's the great opportunity offered by decentralized ledgers, blockchains, and tokenization technologies. Is the possibility to create data that is distributed to the user instead of being collected, which doesn't mean that the person who distributes doesn't get rights, doesn't get the possibility to understand and read and follow. It's just that the data is now controlled by the user. He can do whatever he wants with it, he can transfer it, he can make it evolve, so it's data that is dynamic. And that's what's really interesting about this intersection, is the crossroad between enabling circularity, because you're going to empower the user to control the data of its product, and at the same time solve problem around the deplatformization issue and the data control and the cost of data maintenance and data leaks. And the fact that at some point data sovereignty is always at risk when we centralize things somewhere. So the blockchain is often perceived as a super secure ledger for financial use cases, allowing things to be encrypted and to be sure, but it's also just a better database for the intersection of someone who owns something and the producer. And so when you try to apply that principle to the digital product passport, you're going to need clouds and databases to gather data, organize it, make sure that it's correct, even make calculation, exactly what Aeon does. And what the blockchain can bring on top of that is the possibility to capture a little bit of this data, put it in the hand of the user, and then make it accessible to the network of repair centers, resellers, insurance providers, etc., who are going to make this data evolve. And so when you think about the way internet works today and how much value is captured around data collection and how it's expensive to get a new client, it's like between $50, $100, $150. The possibility to interact with the data that is controlled by the user and to which the brand has access and that is not controlled by anyone is something really exciting. On the other hand, if tomorrow we want to be able to add royalties and real business models on circularity, you're going to need the data for that. This data needs to be fluid, it needs to be dynamic, it needs to be interoperable. And there, probably only blockchain can do. Because if you think about circularity, there's the push from the regulator, but fear is never enough to transform. Fear is enough to conform, to be just aligned. The real incentive is to change the business model. Today, 100% of revenues, margins, profits are made with new made products sold. When can we say that 20% of next year's growth comes from services and circular revenues? If we don't get to this point where the incentive is positive, which the watch industry, for example, has perfectly understood. That's why, in the watch industry, 35% of the premium brands will be at scale with tokenized digital product passports by the end of this year, without any push from the regulator. They're not even in the scope. And they're Swiss brands for most of them, So why? Because they've embraced the fact that circularity is part of the business model. They want to be part of that. So with a positive incentive. So that's where, and it's sometimes hard to understand the landscape because you have NFCs and physical identifiers, and you have the guys from Temera here in the room who are the best at doing that. And then you have the product gathering, and you have product clouds like what Eon is doing to gather product and organize it. And what blockchain does, and what we do at Arianee, is to create from that the data capsule that the user controls and that he can move the way he wants to.
Thank you for that and for the example, because the watch industry is really well doing it. And I like that you mentioned the blockchain addition to it. So what versus having it on the cloud to blockchain, and Natasha, you can also chip into this, what is the benefit of either or do they both have the same intent?
No, I don't think they have the same intent. They go together, it's a stack. The digital product passport or product-based experience stack is a new stack. It comes from gathering data, organizing it, sorting it, verifying it, making calculations. That has no reason to be on any blockchain. Then from there's the moment when the interaction starts with the user. For that, the blockchain is the best because you give the data in their hands and it's natively dynamic and you plug that to your CRM and you have more data and you understand better. So it's complementary.
Yeah, I'd say too, there are a lot of events, like someone said this on the panel right before us, that there's a massive gap between where the enterprise is today and where Web3 and all of this is going. And it's like, how do you bridge that gap? Well, the first gap is your data is within your SAP or your PLM and it's at the SKU level. How are you going to associate a unique item to a unique individual if you do not have a unique ID for the product, right? So first, you have to take all of that SKU data, ingest it from those disparate data systems, create one digital twin, then you serialize, right? So now each one of those, let's say you're making a SKU, each one, you're making 5 million of it, each one gets a unique ID. Then you also have to associate sometimes for compliance unique materials, like this product was made out of cotton from China and this was made out of cotton from India. So you then have to add another layer of data granularity to the digital twin. Then you're tracking the product in the supply chain and you have RFID events, right? That's the technology that brands use today for track and trace in the supply chain. Those are events. You probably don't want to put those events on the blockchain. But then you have events post-sale, like transfer of ownership. Those events you would want to put on your blockchain, right? So it's really about bridging the gap between where the enterprise tech stack is today, where the industry is going, and Eon is kind of a bridge between where the world is today and I guess where the world is going.
Beautifully said. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a really, really good way, what Natasha just explained, to differentiate events that are pre-purchase and post-purchase. An event that's pre-purchased, it's RFID, it's recorded, it has to be in a centralized place because the calculations you need to do, what you want to show or not, what you have to show or not, because the European Commission is going to ask you for something, tomorrow morning California for another one and Japan for another one. So this data that you have here, you have to be able to distribute it differently. This has to be super flexible, controlled, and in a way secret. Then what's in the hand of the user needs to be as much transparent as he wants to, but at least provable, verifiable, auditable, and blockchain is just doing that. So that's the frontier where systems are complementary.
Great.
Just want to add one thing. Like I think, like why I'm so optimistic and inspired by this whole thing. Like you mentioned, all the hard part and like technological part of that, but also this will be like a huge opportunity for many businesses to bring like a fresh narrative and like fresh storytelling, because it will open the door of like new possibilities of brands telling the story, how you produce those items, what do you do with those items, and how your user, your people, your community use those items. And this will be like a tremendous like opportunity for many brands, especially like a mid-sized brands and maybe smaller brands, to become like bigger one and more visible on the market.
Yeah, which is also going to be a challenge, because what the regulation is going to create are huge entry barriers. You know, it's going to be so hard soon to be a fashion brand, or with everything you have to comply. So the protection, so storytelling and unique experiences are probably a good way to actually push the advantage for younger brands.
That's a great segue into the next question, Jake. This one's for you.
Thank you.
Can you talk about the engagement with a product? We're living in a world now that we're just hoping to have one less click to get to the next place or next space or next transaction or next experience. How will the world of a journey with NFCs and with different digital product passports lead to a more seamless interaction with products? Or what will we have to learn as a new way of interacting with products?
I think like you know many brands right now are exploring and like innovating and trying to figure out this stuff, like how to work with users, how to play with users, how to engage them in a new way, because like email from 2000 is like completely depleted, like the marketers are there and like email is useless, right? And all other channels like 2005 or like 8, like social media, right now the clicks and like cost of acquisition of user is so high that for many brands, especially small ones, is like the useless channel, especially in competitive like niche. But with NFC, and I always tell this like this is just another point of contact between a brand and a customer, right? This is something new, something fresh, and brands can engage with their users. And right now, we are working with many different brands, and each brand try to figure out what will resonate the most with their users. We, for example, bring some solutions as a use cases. For example, we are deep into like sports market. We are trying to figure out the sports engagement. Like right now, for example, we are working with a sports club where you can buy a scarf, and scarf is equipped with an NFC chip. And with this scarf, you can enter to the soccer match for free, because there is like your ticket inside, and everything is implemented with a ticketing system. And it's like a seamless experience. And for brands, it's like super useful, because if a club wants on a stadium like 1,000 people wearing the same scarf at the same moment, this is the perfect vehicle for that. Like you just receive a push notification in a club app, wear the scarf, and you will grab a free popcorn or a beer during the soccer match. Everyone will show up. And for different brand, there will be like a different use case. And from our perspective as a brand, we are trying to build this digital layer of technology and let brands, creative studios, agencies build apps on top of that. Build those experiences and test those experiences with basically the user base.
Can you give us your favorite example that you've worked on?
I like the sport one. I like for example, this is a little bit more Web3, but I think there is a lot of use cases also in Web2. For example, if this is an NFT, and there is only, let's say, 1,000 pieces this kind of shoe on the world, you can create a token-gated group where you can meet on Discord or other channels, like people having in possession the same item. And this brings for brand an opportunity to like create those small communities, but very engaged ones. Because people like collecting products from different brands. Like for example, watches. I would like to have like be on a group with my favorite watch, people around the world wearing this, or buy people that bought the same watch because they like this specific like piece of, for example, Breitling, right?
Yeah. Well,
this is like cool experience.
So Breitling is a good example, but
Yeah.
we did exactly that with IWC.
Yeah.
We created a token-gated chat group. Honestly, the features of the chat group were like so basic, it looked like the 80s. But
Yeah.
everyone went there, like 50% of the people.
And this is important, right?
But there, no notification, no correction of message, like the worst chat experience you can imagine. But people were so happy to be just together among owners of watches. They were like posting things every day. It was like, I still can't believe it. So yeah, the community aspect is critical.
And this is like important because it grows organically, right? You don't need to push those people, like go to the Discord, go to the chat and like talk to each other.
Talking about community and engagements in community, Pierre-Nicolas, could you tell us another example that is not IWC on how these phygital products and experiences can bring us more natural and more engaging communities for these brands in order to push content and push brand experiences more than just the product?
Yeah, I think really the incentive is the service, is the utility. When you engage with a product, the main thing you want is either to protect the value, make sure you can resell it easily, eventually repair it or extend your warranty. That's the number one incentive that's going to make someone interact with something else than the product. So for that to work, and there's the big challenge right now is, do people interact with these things? Do they do it? Yes, when it's a super unique thing, etc. But like at scale, how do we make people interact? And so I think there's a big work to do on the consumer experience, the user experience at checkout, making it as seamless as possible. It's also important to materialize the services, and things around community are amazing, but they're so hard to execute. Which brand can today promise a community experience to the owners of this jacket or this bag that would be relevant, supported with real value, and then sustain that? It's so hard. I mean, look, this fashion brands are, struggling with omni-channel retailing, building their databases, struggling with regulation, growth, China. So I would say that sometimes the best idea is the simplest. We often, when we talk with our clients, they're like, so what can we do more? And I'm like, let's scale first. Let's do the 3 basic services that we have been talking for a while and that are already hard to implement. And then we'll see about community, because community thing, it's amazing, but look, Discord is clunky. It's very hard to manage. You need moderators on that all day to make sure. And then, so community is great, but it's not easy to execute. Services are essential, but sometimes they take time to be built. But in the end, if we don't simplify the claim process, the check-in, the moment you interact between the product and the digital, then you don't have anyone to activate.
Yeah, I think that is those barriers to entry to this world of, as you were saying, Discord and all of these new things that we need to, that's why we mentioned the thing about jargon at the beginning. This is a space where not everyone feels completely comfortable yet, and there is some time and steps to get to somewhere where there's actual value in the experience that you have around that connected product.
We need return. We can't just imagine that things are going to change just because of regulatory context or with marketing money. We need business models post-purchase. We need to prove that someone who's engaged with a product that is connected can be traded up in the brand 5 times more, and it's less expensive than getting someone new. We need to be able to prove that there are revenues on resale, that services can be implemented. This is absolutely essential.
Great. Natasha, customer lifetime engagement, how can we really push and understand the customer loyalty with these kind of passports or IDs in order to push how we engage with them and how their loyalty keeps coming back Web 2's already complicated with loyalty. Now Web 3 is bringing another world of customer loyalty, lifetime loyalty. How do you see that?
Yeah, I'd say regardless of, any sort of Web 2, Web 3, I think basically today when a customer buys a product, they, especially luxury, like most customers are looking at this as an investment piece, right? Is it resellable? And we've worked with a lot of kind of mid-tier brands who recently found out that their products perhaps weren't accepted by Vestiaire or The RealReal, and they're finding that has material impact on their business because customers don't want to buy products anymore that they can't resell. And so basically now if you are able to give your product an ID that facilitates this whole resale process, authenticated, fully integrated, this product, it's basically like when you buy a car, you can resell it, it has a VIN, right? This idea of being able to, and especially for our generation, or I'm probably older than the generation here, but being able to use those products as assets and resell them is incredibly important. Most people aren't buying homes right now, so this is really disposable income is going into products and experiences. So what we've done with Coach and Tapestry Group, when the customer buys the product, we're integrated with their POS system. So that association to the customer can happen automatically at scale, right? Leveraging the existing tech infrastructure, and that gets registered as an event. So the product becomes basically claimable. It gets registered to them at point of sale through the POS, and then basically when they go to resell, they click the product, they hit resell, and they can upload it into Coach's preferred resale partner system. And then that also is an event. We push that event into the brand CRM, and then they can engage the user at that point of resale. So when you're looking at the customer lifetime value, you're no longer ending the relationship with the customer at point of sale. You've provided them a valuable asset. You've engaged them post-sale. You're delivering, like we call it, a shift from a transactional relationship, because we say point of sale, right, into a transformational relationship, one that's ongoing between the brand and the customer, that's based on delivering ongoing value. And when the brand sells the product, that's just the beginning of the customer's experience, right? And the brand is like, adios. So I think it's going to be really exciting to start to see all the data and value and benefits that brands start to get. But again, it does require volume. You do have to make the step to say, okay, we're doing this at scale. It is across our products. Because, to some extent, it is like the barcode, right? If you put it on one product, you're not going to see this value.
Yeah, all these events that are happening after sale, the best place for them to be is in the token. And just to explain why. Imagine if you were buying something and you can get the bag, but they're like, oh no, the box stays in the shop. Oh, what do you mean? Oh yeah, the passport, the documents, they stay in the shop as well. It's exactly the same if you keep inside a centralized database the elements that are constitutive to the experience. What Web3 brings on the table is this capability to give what is owned by the user in the hand of the user and allow him to record these events, to move it, to transfer with the data that is controlled by them, that has the same properties as the physical things that are not staying in the store. And so I think that's where, and there's one step after all. Huh? First you need to scale, first you need to put all this data in, you need to create these digital identities in Product Cloud. But I really think that where all of this system becomes compelling is when the data, the consumer product brand data part is put on a system that is designed to give the control of the data to the user and to be natively dynamic. And I think that's where these different layers of technology, from chips to centralized databases to blockchain-enabled tokenized passports, can bring the most value.
It seems like there's so many opportunities: sustainability, customer engagement, data collection, data usage, circular models, so many things we've talked about today. Can you each say one of the biggest opportunities you see and your biggest challenge that you also see in this space as pioneers of this iteration of retail, internet, and the way we use and engage with products?
Yeah, like 3 years ago, for example, when we were at the conference like NFT NYC, Web3 conference, and we were trying to convince people that they need to tap a t-shirt or a hoodie to scan something, it was like, how? Like with my phone, it can like do this? Like it was like something. Right now, 3 years later, people on conference, especially Web3 conference, are like prepared that there is like chips on specific items. You can scan them, you can interact with those items. And I think like this is starting from the challenge. This is like the biggest challenge, especially with like regular world, let's say, how to like change this, like, because it's like a behavioral change. How to like influence people that like tapping is cool. And I think like from my perspective, it's like the biggest opportunity lies in the younger generation. Like, if I vision this like this, like if we will have like kids scanning each other, buying things from the referral links, making money on it, reselling the things, making money on the resale, brand will like gain like visibility. This is something that will grow organically because we like all those brands, small and mid-sized, could like do many things, but it need to be like an organic shift in people. And like young people, I think is like the best way to give them the tools, and they will play with it. And then our grandpas will like approach us and, oh, you got this NFC thing on your T-shirt? Can I scan it? And like, can I approach it? Like, there will be like a last layer, right? Like with social media, the history repeats itself in every industry, the same. We are at the beginning of some kind of shift, but we need like a behavioral change in people. The same was with like, for example, smart home devices. I'm not learned by like natively to speak to a speaker at my home, but my daughter, yes. She's like talking to Alexa, and this is something like super cool for her. Like singing birthday songs or something. Like I need to learn that, but she is like native with this kind of behavior. At the same shift we need to like with NFC and like, let's say, smart clothes or like objects.
Great. Pierre-Nicolas, maybe you want to go?
So I think the number one opportunity is decoupling. Decoupling growth from new products sold and produced. I think we have a huge challenge. The number one challenge is the climate crisis. We need to change the model of production and consumption, but we can't change everything at the same time. We can't solve that and at the same time change capitalism. Capitalism is going to continue to be based on growth and more revenues. The only way to manage both is decoupling. Decoupling the growth of brands from the sale of new product made. For that, you need to understand what's going on after sale. You need to be able to interact with products. You need to be able to interact with owners. You need a new data. This is the opportunity to create this new data for circularity to truly transform the economy and make it circular. The biggest challenge, it's scale. Because there's not enough fear and not enough incentive right now to move everything to scale. And there will be no services, no easiness until it's the chicken and egg, until we don't have a network effect with millions and millions and millions of products that are ID'd and on-chain for the most valuable, durable, and repairable ones. So this is the challenge, and all the people here are probably the most interested in that. But it takes time to scale. A big company, big enterprises that have an impact, they have a roadmap, they have IT issues, they have immediate KPIs to deliver. So many times we've had a champion in a brand, like deciding that they're going to do it, and then we sign a contract, and then they open the door of the IT guy, and he's like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, come back in a year and a half," and then that's true. There's no way to talk to this guy again during a year and a half. So everything, if it doesn't seem urgent right now, that doesn't mean you should not be working on it. It's long. You need tests. You need to understand the many new tiles you're going to need in your information systems. Then you should run RFPs to put in competition even the people with whom you've done POCs with, us or anyone. Choose the best and then implement. And while doing that, you should be doing that with a full company aligned, a steering committee, people in each department. Because if not, you're going to get to the door of the CIO and come back in 3 years.
We don't want that. Natasha, you want to?
I guess, close it, what was it?
Your biggest opportunity you see and the biggest challenge.
Yeah, so I mean, for Eon, we kind of sit as the boring infrastructure to enable front-end possibilities. Like, nobody ever sees us. So, but what I am most excited about in terms of what we would be enabling in a future state, which is, if you think about it, the digital twin, if every product had a digital twin, it's kind of like Airbnb is a digital twin of the home, and Uber is a digital twin of the car, and all of those customer-facing technologies enable you to unlock the monetization and utility of those vehicles, right? Just like we can start to unlock and increase the monetization and utility of all of the products that we create as a society, right? You could even see with the digital twin, you could actually borrow the blouse from your neighbor, right? And my background was smart cities, so of course that was the angle for me that was the most inspiring in this journey. So Eon is kind of a data pipeline, and we would basically have started to push data into new applications like digital wardrobes, who can now connect to the multiple IDs of different brands and start to say, this is Jessica's closet, right? So I'd say, we don't build those applications, but the rise of product ID, just like the rise of the Internet of Things, which is DPP in essence, is going to enable this whole new world of customer-facing applications, use cases, business models. And I think the ubiquity will make those ideas possible, and I'm excited to see that, hopefully in my life.
In short-term future, our wardrobe will be making money for us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, look, can you imagine if anyone here traded or owned NFTs at some point? You know that you don't need to list an NFT. It's on chain. So one morning you wake up and you have an offer for your clone or for whatever, and you didn't even list it. Can you imagine if we were able to do that with the 80% of the garment we own and don't wear? Because that's the ratio. People wear 20% of what they buy. Imagine you wake up in a morning, oh, this blue jacket, it's worth something today. You want to sell it? Okay, click, ship. So that's what on-chain brings. So that would be so exciting if we could easily make money out of our wardrobe without none of the hassle and put business models on top of that.
During the night you sleep, Joe Biden wears the jacket. In the morning offer, $2,000, go.
You put that in a box, you ship. The person who receives scans the NFC, verifies that it's okay, transfer of the money, done. That's what we will get, and we'll all work to make sure that it happens sooner than later.
A true dream, I would say, for
it's
all
a goal.
of us.
It's a goal.
A dream, an achievable dream, and a goal, and hopefully, as Natasha said, in our lifetimes. Thank you so much for sharing everything. It was so insightful, truly. It's not an easy topic, and I really appreciate the depth into where you went to describing use cases and how it actually has a true value and impact, and demystifying all that jargon. Thank you so much.